Do you remember the Hostess Trolley your mum or gran used to wheel out at Christmas? Or maybe those Formica worktops in bright orange and brown that seem to shine in every kitchen? In this video, we take a look back at the forgotten kitchen helpers of the 1970s. The gadgets, designs, and little touches that once felt modern, but now live only in memory. Today we'll look at the forgotten objects that once used to be in every 70s kitchen, and if you love a trip down memory lane, don't forget to like and subscribe for more nostalgia. Now let's begin with the Hostess Trolley. The Hostess Trolley was a must-have in any ambitious 1970s household, especially if you enjoyed throwing dinner parties. Essentially, a heated cabinet on wheels, it allowed food to stay warm while you topped up drinks, mingled, or ferried courses in style. Mothers and hostesses alike wheeled them proudly from kitchen to dining room, filled with piping hot casseroles or joints of meat. To younger generations, it might seem like an overcomplicated sideboard, but at the time it was a status symbol of modern convenience. They were advertised as giving you more time with your guests, though in truth, they often dried out a roast if left too long. Today, most have disappeared to car boot sales or charity shops, but for many, the clunky, humming trolley is a warm reminder of family gatherings, Christmas dinners, and that unmistakable smell of food kept warm just a bit too long. If there's one material that screams 1970s kitchen, it's Formica. These glossy laminate surfaces were everywhere, and available in colours ranging from avocado green to burnt orange, with wood grain patterns and sometimes even glittery flecks. Formica was the definition of modern living. Unlike traditional wood or tiles, it was wipe clean, stain resistant, and relatively cheap, making it the go-to choice for practical families upgrading their kitchens. Many will remember sitting at a Formica-covered kitchen table with a cup of tea, patterned mugs resting without the need for a coaster. Of course, fashions change, and those once chic colour schemes fell out of favour as the 1980s moved towards pine and marble. The Fondue Set was the height of continental sophistication in 1970s Britain. Popularised as the centrepiece of social dining, every kitchen seemed to have one, and it was usually brought out just once a year. The ritual was part of the fun. A bubbling pot of cheese or chocolate sat in the middle of the table, with guests dipping cubes of bread, fruit, or marshmallows using long forks. It was all about sharing and conversation, though the cheese often went stringy and the forks tangled before the night was through. Despite the novelty, most sets soon found their way to the back of the cupboard, only emerging for Christmas or New Year gatherings. Today, fondue feels like a quirky relic, but for those who remember it, there's something charming about huddling around that pot. Before the internet, TV chefs and smartphones, every British kitchen in the 1970s had a dedicated spot for cookbooks. These weren't just functional, they were part of the kitchen decorations. Stacks of dog-eared Delia Smith, Marguerite Patten, and Hamlin cookbooks lined the shelves, often splattered with sauce and annotated in pencil with family tweaks. The cookbooks of the era reflected changing tastes. Classic meat and two-veg recipes sat alongside the rise of foreign dishes like spaghetti bolognese or curry. Leafing through those pages now, you'd find photographs with a very 1970s feel. Many kitchens had a slim wooden shelf or a corner dedicated solely to this growing collection. While today recipes are just a click away, those shelves symbolise learning, aspiration, and the pride of putting something new on the family table. Bright, bold, and unbreakable, melamine dinnerware, particularly the Gaydon dishes, were made from a tough plastic. These plates and bowls were lightweight, stackable, and perfect for children or outdoor meals. They came in vibrant colours: mustard yellow, burnt orange, olive green, and chocolate brown, the full retro palette. They weren't glamorous, but they were practical, and every cupboard seemed to have a stack waiting for picnics, barbecues, or quick weekday teas. Unlike today's delicate ceramics, melamine could be dropped on a stone floor without so much as a scratch. Few gadgets capture the spirit of the 1970s, like the Teasmade. This bedside contraption combined an alarm clock with a kettle, promising you a fresh cup of tea the moment you woke up. Of course, the design was bulky, slightly noisy, and occasionally temperamental, but it was an icon of British ingenuity. Some models even had built-in lamps to gently light the room as the tea brewed. Today they feel quaint and impractical, yet the memory of a Teasmade brings back a certain charm. Before paninis and electric grills, the 1970s toasted sandwich maker was the king of quick comfort food. These clamshell contraptions, often heavy and made of cast aluminium, clamped 2 slices of bread together over a hob or plugged into the wall, sealing the edges to create neat triangle-shaped toasties. The distinctive scalding hot corners of a 1970s toastie are still remembered fondly by many. For kids, it felt like a special treat. For parents, it was fast, filling, and cheap. Over time, they fell out of favour as kitchens filled with microwaves and more versatile gadgets. But that first bite of molten cheese, wrapped in crispy bread, is a memory almost everyone over 50 can summon instantly. If there's one colour scheme that defined the 1970s kitchen, it was orange and brown. From wallpaper to crockery, curtains to carpets, these warm, earthy tones dominated British households. Cabinets were often a deep walnut brown, countertops in burnt orange, and accessories from kettles to toasters followed the same palette. It was considered cosy and modern at the time, though by today's standards, it can look a bit heavy-handed. Many remember sitting in kitchens surrounded by patterned wallpaper with repeating swirls, geometric tiles in orange and ochre, and matching melamine utensils. It was a world away from the sleek white and grey kitchens we see now. The pressure cooker was both a marvel and a menace in the 1970s kitchen. Tower and Prestige made the most popular models, heavy metal pots with locking lids that hissed and rattled ominously as they cooked food at high speed. They were promoted as a way to save time and energy, turning tough cuts of meat into tender stews in under an hour. Every household seemed to have one, yet many children remember being slightly terrified by the sudden spurts of steam and the loud whistles. Still, they were practical, and countless soups, curries, and puddings were cooked this way. Some families swore by them, others quickly banished theirs to the back of a cupboard after a messy mishap. Today's electric multi-cookers are the modern descendants, but few carry the same mixture of respect and mild fear that the old Tower and Prestige pressure cookers inspired. Every 1970s kitchen seemed to have a butter dish, often made of thick glass with a ridged or patterned lid. Sitting permanently on the counter or kitchen table, it kept the butter soft enough to spread without tearing bread, which was essential before margarine became the household standard. Some families had ceramic ones, but the glass-lidded version was the most common, sturdy, and practical. While fridges grew larger and spreadable alternatives took over in later decades, the humble butter dish slowly disappeared. For many, though, it's a reminder of slower, more peaceful breakfasts. The electric carving knife was the height of gadgetry in the 1970s kitchen. Long and slake, it buzzed loudly as its 2 serrated blades soared back and forth, promising perfect slices of meat at Sunday lunch. For many families, it turned up once a week for the roast, the whirring noise cutting through the kitchen before plates were piled high with beef, lamb, or turkey. There was something futuristic about it, since there was no more struggling with a blunt carving knife, just smooth, even cuts, at least in theory. In reality, they were heavy, awkward to clean, and often chewed through crusty bread more than sliced it. Yet for those who remember it, the electric carving knife was part of the ritual of family dinners. Long before air fryers or oven chips, the chip pan was a kitchen staple. Usually a simple deep saucepan filled with oil, it was used to make homemade chips which were golden, crispy, and often far tastier than shop-bought alternatives. A wire basket lifted the chips in and out. The smell of frying potatoes would fill the whole house, and waiting for them to cool enough to eat was part of the ritual. Of course, they weren't without risk, as chip pans caused countless kitchen fires, leading to fire brigades issuing regular safety warnings in the 1980s and beyond. Despite the dangers, many still look back fondly on those home-fried chips, often served with a slice of bread and butter or a splash of vinegar. The chip pan has all but vanished today, replaced by safer gadgets, but its memory is inseparable from the flavour of a 1970s tea. Get busy with the fizzy. That catchy slogan still rings in many ears. The original soda stream was a revolution in the late 1970s, letting families make their own fizzy drinks at home. It came with a chunky machine, gas cylinders, and flavoured syrups, ranging from cola and orangeade to more unusual concoctions. Kids loved watching the bubbles fizz up, and there was something magical about creating your own shot pop in the kitchen. It also gave parents a cheaper way to keep soft drinks flowing for parties or weekend treats. The design was solid and practical, often sitting proudly on the kitchen counter. Though today's sleek soda streams have made a comeback, the originals were clunky, noisy, and brilliantly of their time. Every 1970s kitchen had a knife block, usually made of chunky pine, and housing a set of wooden-handled knives. Many of the knives quickly grew blunt and rarely got sharpened. Still, they were a fixture on the worktop, always within reach for peeling potatoes, slicing bread, or preparing the Sunday roast. The wooden handles often split over time, stained with years of use, but families held onto them regardless. In an era before sleek stainless steel and ergonomic designs, these knife blocks were considered modern and essential. Seeing one today instantly recalls the feel of those old kitchens, with patterned wallpaper behind them, perhaps a chopping board nearby, and the smells of hearty homemade meals being prepared. The salt pig was one of those quiet little kitchen items that everyone had, but never thought much about. Usually made of ceramic, often in earthy tones, or glazed with a homely shine, it was a pot with an open mouth that sat by the cooker, holding coarse salt. The idea was simple. You could pinch a bit easily while cooking. Many of them had a rustic, handmade look, sometimes shaped like little barrels or decorated with cheerful patterns. While they've largely disappeared from modern kitchens, the sight of a salt pig instantly recalls a time when seasoning was straightforward, and meals were about hearty flavour rather than fuss. Few objects capture the charm of a 1970s kitchen like the Crinoline Lady Tea Cosy. Often knitted or fabric made, it draped over a teapot to keep the brew warm, shaped like a lady in a big dress with the teapot itself forming her skirt. Some were handmade by relatives, lovingly crocheted in pastel colours, while others were bought at craft fairs or local shops. They were a practical necessity when tea was served in pots rather than bags dunked in mugs, but they were also decorative, brightening the table during afternoon tea. Children often found them amusing, lifting them up to reveal the pot beneath. Today the tea cosy feels like a relic of slower, more communal tea times, when families gathered around the table and a second pot was always on the cards. For many, the Crinoline Lady is a fond memory stitched into the fabric of home life. Every 1970s kitchen wall seemed to have a row of hanging utensils, proudly displayed above the cooker or worktop. Usually mounted on a wooden or metal rail, they held ladles, spatulas, slotted spoons, and whisks, all within easy reach. Sometimes they came in matching sets with brightly coloured plastic handles, often in the classic avocado green or burnt orange of the era. They weren't just practical, they were part of the decor, signalling that the kitchen was a busy working space. For children, they often looked like mysterious tools of the trade, clattering as they were pulled down for Sunday cooking. Over time, kitchens became sleeker, and utensils were tucked away in drawers rather than hanging proudly on display. But for many, those dangling spoons and ladles are tied to memories of hearty stews, bubbling sauces, and the comforting clatter of everyday family meals being made. Perched on the counter, the hen-shaped egg holder held half a dozen or more eggs at room temperature, ready for frying, baking, or boiling. Some were plain ceramic, while others were brightly glazed, with painted feathers and cheeky expressions. They added a touch of charm to the kitchen and were a far cry from today's cardboard cartons hidden in the fridge. For many, these egg keepers symbolised the homeliness of the kitchen, a blend of practicality and whimsy. Children would often lift the lid just to peer inside, fascinated by the treasure of eggs it held. While largely gone now, replaced by supermarket packaging and fridge storage, the hen-shaped egg keeper remains one of the most evocative symbols of the 1970s British kitchen, cheerful, simple, and warmly nostalgic. And that's it for today's trip down memory lane. Give it a like if you remembered your old kitchen, and don't forget to subscribe for more nostalgia. See you next time.